Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to How to Get Hired. I am Bill, the company's expert, and welcome to everybody. It's so great to see you here. We are going to talk about how to get hired. We're going to answer your hiring questions or anything to do with careers or business or anything, really. The fact that I don't have any color whatsoever in my room or anything behind me, doesn't that look a little weird? I just realized that right now. But that's okay because it says something about my personality, I imagine. A shout out to all my Patreons and all my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you supporting me. And if you do decide to join my YouTube channel by clicking the join button, you get an extra free video from me every week. And if you are seeing this right now, and hopefully you can see the chat in usually the right-hand side, if you're on the desktop anyway, ask questions, say where you're listening from. I see there are 22 people here, so that's great to see. I've shifted the, what do you call it? Like the layout of the live stream around a little bit. Now I'm a bit wider. God, my screen is backwards, so it's hard to do this. But we should be able to see everybody's comments and stuff. So that's great. And word of the day, everybody. Word of the day, because I know you want to expand your vocabulary. Ugh. The word of the day is expostulation. And you get 5 bonus points if you know what that means. Expostulation. That means to argue with somebody, basically, especially if you're trying to dissuade them, to try and talk them out of something. You can expostulate or engage in some heated expostulation. I guarantee you that if you drop that word, you will be the coolest person in your little group for like a week. And this is how, in a business sense, you realize that you're just too rock and roll for your own good. We got several people here. Joe Nass is here. Hello from Sweden. Hey, Joe. I would expect someone from Sweden to have a more Swedish name, but that's cool. Capital Stockholm. I know several people that live in Sweden. That's awesome. And Helpful Channel TAS says hello from Bangladesh, capital Dakar. Right? That's good. Welcome. Just to lead it off. I got to get a couple more public service announcements out of the way while people are getting their questions ready. These live streams, if you don't know this already, I do them every Wednesday at this time. So I'm here every Wednesday, folks. And these live streams get archived over on my second YouTube channel. If you didn't know that I had a second YouTube channel, it's an extremely original title. It's called The Company's Expert 2. And there's a link in the description. Or you could just go to the YouTube box and type in The Company's Expert 2. Go over there now and subscribe to it. And there'll be even more of me, and who wouldn't want that? Tapiwa, if I'm saying that right, Tapiwa, from Zimbabwe capital Harare, I believe. So hello, Navid164 says, stuck with a saddest boss in a bank. Uh-oh. She always takes credit for all the hard work I put in and gives me a C rating at the end of the year, 5 times in a row. No appreciation, no support. Well, you are not alone. A boss who takes credit for your ideas and puts you down. Unfortunately, that's quite common in the world. Okay, so you are not alone. And I know it sucks. And it depends what type of person this is. If you guys got off on the wrong foot, that's one thing. But if, as is usually the case, they're just a more unprofessional person that doesn't know how to manage people, that's another. And I don't think there's too much you can really do. Because unfortunately, the boss calls the shots. You have control over yourself. Unfortunately, we don't have control over other people. So the key to navigating these types of situations is knowing that if other people behave a certain way, we should know what is in our own interest and how we should behave. So if the boss behaves a certain way and you're able to find another job somewhere, then you can leave and end that undesirable situation. You could also try talking to them, obviously, but that depends on them being reasonable. So that's a tough one to crack there. A lot of times I find that we can't change people. We just have to know what we will do for our own interests. Trap says, do you recommend any sites for writing resumes? No, I don't. Here's what I do recommend, and I've said this before, is you could do this with Google, but actually in this particular case, I recommend that you go to the other search engine, Bing. Okay, now don't laugh. Okay, Bing right now actually has a very good visual search. Okay, so you go to bing.com, bing.com, and type in something like resume or resume examples. Okay, and then hit enter. And then instead of getting, a normal search, go to the image search. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a whole ton of pictures of resumes. Okay. And you will be able to see lots of examples of resumes. Okay. Screen after screen after screen after screen of examples. And that can give you ideas for how to write your own resume. Okay. That's what I would say. Okay, look at examples of other resumes. Now, not all of them are going to be amazing, but most of them will be pretty decent. And that's what I recommend doing, okay? Before you go and you hire a resume writer or any of that stuff, okay? This will be good for like 99% of people. That's what I recommend, okay? So check that out. Jack says, what do hiring managers consider the amount of years to be considered you spent in a job to be sufficient to avoid job hopping? Well, that's a great question. That has changed. That has changed in the last couple of years since the events of 2020. Now, it used to be, it's going to vary by industry and by seniority and position, blah, blah, blah. But 2 years was generally considered a good sort of cutoff point, a watershed. If you had been in a place for 2 years or more, then there wasn't any question of you job hopping, okay? It's when you get under 2 years that some people start to count it as job hopping. Some people will count 1 year as job hopping. Other people will count something less than a year as job hopping, like 6 months. I think that's almost universally going to be counted as job hopping. Between 6 months and 2 years was that kind of iffy gray area, okay? Now, since 2020, okay, that sort of, generally speaking, that perception has shortened. So now you can, work at a place for 1 year and then move on, and some people will not consider that job hopping. Okay, so that's what the pandemic and things have done. Okay, but it depends what you do. This is once. First of all, I've done a video on job hopping, and sometimes that can be something to do, okay? The other thing is that you have the option of leaving things off your resume, okay? If we're talking a matter of months here, it is possible to do that, so there's always that. Hello from Moldova. Could you tell us a little about the most common job interview questions? Well, I've got a ton of videos for that, and hopefully we will talk about that in the course of the video, but this is what I will say. Okay, let's see. How can I put this? In order to know what to do, okay, you need to know who you're speaking to. That's kind of a general rule of everything to do with marketing, sales, everything. And a job interview is a sales pitch. You are selling yourself, okay? It's like making a presentation about yourself, okay? And you're going to try and sell yourself. You're going to try and tell them how great you are. You're going to try and minimize telling them all your faults and all that kind of stuff. But you need to know your audience to understand what the message is. If you're talking to a recruiter, recruiters care about requirements. That's what their job is. I've said this many times. A recruiter is a professional person who is hired to source candidates. They are given a list of requirements by somebody else, and they're told, go out and find me some people that have all of these. Okay. So if you're talking to a recruiter, your purpose in that interview is going to be to communicate to them that you have all of the things that they're looking for. And they've given you a list of most of those things in the job posting. They've said, we're looking for someone who has this, right? So in the course of answering your questions, you will want to explain to them that you have those things. For example, they say, why should we hire you? And you say, well, it's because you should hire me because I have this, and then I have this, and I have this, and I have this, right? Tell me about yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself. You say, well, I'm a person who has this, and this, and this, and this, right? When they ask you, like, what's your best trait or what's your biggest strength? You say, well, my biggest strength is that I have this, right? So you see how we're basically using those questions as a vehicle to communicate all the different requirements so that when the recruiter leaves the meeting, okay, at the end of the interview, their takeaway is that, oh, that candidate I just talked to, they seem to have everything on my list because I remember them talking about every single one of these, some of them more than once, because remember, not everything you say gets received, shall we say. People don't, retain everything that they hear, right? So it's good to mention a few things more than once, especially if they're very important. Okay, so that's what I'll say about that blanket question at this point. Hopefully that helps. What is your name? Are you asking me that seriously, or that's like a trick question? My name is Bill. Hi all. What's your country name? Well, I am speaking from Canada. Weather dude. How should I change how I make a request to my boss about asking for more challenging work for a chance to supervise an employee? How should you change it? You mean like you're asking how to make a request? Well, the best thing to make any request, first of all, is you've got to pick the time, right? Don't approach your boss when they're busy, when they're annoyed, anything like that. You got to choose the timing. Okay. You don't want to come across as pestering them, and just say like, look, you can't tell people to do things. You have to talk about yourself. You have to say, look, just so you know, I am very interested in being able to start supervising people. So if there's ever an opportunity to supervise some employees around here, if there's a supervisor position that opens up, or you need anyone to do those types of duties when you're on vacation or anything like that, please consider me, because I'd very much like to do it. And if you have any pointers, I'd like to be able to help out. That's a good way of phrasing it, something along those lines. Okay. My buddy EGR NHL says, I accepted a job but have no offer letter to sign. HR is working on it and the background check. Is there anything I should do? I don't know what you've done up to this point, but I would say no. Until they give you, something in writing, there really isn't anything real going on, right? They can pull out of this process at any moment. They can ghost you at any moment. It only becomes real when they've given you an offer letter to sign and you've read it and it looks acceptable. Okay. Before that, it's all just verbal. It's all just something that could evaporate at any moment. Okay. So I don't think there's anything you need to do, assuming that they've said like an offer letter is coming, right? And they haven't made any other requests of you. Joe, I am from Hong Kong. Oh, okay. Awesome. Right. There's some interesting things going on over there now, as I understand. Stay safe. Kandar says, it's down to the final two, and the hiring manager has asked me out for coffee. What's TMR, tomorrow? I'm guessing he's doing the same with the other candidate. Anything I can do to stand out and make sure he picks me? Listen, a moment ago I was saying what to do if you're dealing with a recruiter, right? Your recruiters care about requirements. If, on the other hand, you're dealing with a hiring managers don't care as much about requirements. What they care about most is that they get along with you and you guys click as people. Because if you are to get hired, this person is going to be your boss. You're going to be working pretty closely together. So what matters more than you having the technical requirements? And you have the technical requirements. If you were invited to an interview and, even certainly if you're at this point where they're considering making you an offer or whatever, what they care about is that they like you and they want to work with you. Okay. So that's the biggest priority when you're dealing with a hiring manager. Okay. So if you're going to go out for coffee with a hiring manager, remember that's the big priority. So, do standard things like don't argue with them unnecessarily. Don't disagree with them necessarily. Like, if it's something trivial, if they make a joke, just laugh, even if it's lame, you know what I mean? Just try and be pleasant and friendly, smile a lot. Don't go in there like looking all nervous or looking really upset. Just try and be pleasant. Assuming you're doing all that stuff, that's what's important, okay? They can hire a bunch of people that are qualified. They want to hire someone who's going to work well with them, okay? So that's what I would say. Vlaco? I'm trying to find a job in another country from another country by sending emails, CVs, messages over LinkedIn, and no results. I'm an old school guy. Should I pack my bags and show up there in person? Show up where? In the country? I'm not an expert on immigration and that kind of stuff. So taking that out of it, no, if it were me, I wouldn't. Okay, it seems like a pretty big step to take if you don't have a job waiting for you at the end of it. Okay, and I'm not sure what your situation is, but all things being equal, I would not do that. I would do it remotely. Okay, it is possible to do it remotely. I would just make sure that your technique is down. Okay, there's a lot of things you've got to do to do it properly. It's very hard for me to sort of say all of them, everything in 30 seconds. It's not really possible. All I can say is that I've got a course that goes through all of that. If you want to check that out, that's my Get Hired course. Okay, it's this thing right here. Link in the description. Okay, if you're really stuck and you need some help, I have talked about it in my free YouTube videos, so you could check those out too. But if you want the step-by-step from beginning to end, that's in my Get Hired course. I would not deal with recruiters over LinkedIn. Okay, I would deal with hiring managers directly over LinkedIn. Okay, managers, and I would go to executives. I would not go to, certainly not to workers, certainly not to supervisors. A lot of times not to middle managers. I would go to executives. Okay, and initiate contact with that. That's how you do things. That's just how things work. Executives, it's part of their job that they take queries that are external to the company, right? That's just what they do. And so they are set up to do that. They expect that. They do it on a daily basis. So all you need to know is how to connect with them and what to say. If you are going to travel and do something, I would go to industry events, like maybe trade shows or, stuff like that. If you want to network and do it that way. But that's what I'll say about that. Joshua says, what can I do to overcome the overqualified objection? I can't seem to get hired because I'm overqualified. Yeah, I know. That's really really annoying. The bottom line is this is how a lot of recruiters think. Okay. Like overqualified. That's kind of a thing, mainly in my experience, at least, that's created by recruiters. And it's following a particular theory of HR, right? And that is that, namely, it's the theory, the idea that if you hire somebody who has more skills than what you need, the assumption is that they will not be happy in that job. They will be able to do better. So as soon as they get hired, their number one priority would be to jump to a higher level job that would be more suitable for their skills, their skill set. Okay, so that's the assumption based on a theory. And so recruiters will push this, overqualified. Now, it isn't all smoke and mirrors because, it is what we see in the real world, at least with worker type jobs. But the solution to that, like the solution to a lot of these types of problems, are to not get a job through recruiters, but to get a job through networking, okay, where you contact hiring managers proactively. Okay, that's the fix for this, okay? Because they, generally speaking, don't have this idea of overqualified. If you show up, okay, it's almost like the theory of volunteering, right? You know how they say volunteering is great to have on your resume, right? The reason they say that, well, one of the reasons anyway, is because volunteering, it signals what you care about and the type of person you are, okay? You're not being paid for doing that activity. So if you volunteer for it, the theory is that you must be passionate about it. This is something that they don't have to pay you to do. You do it because you want to do it, right? Now that signals a good employee, an employee who is passionate about a certain thing, an employee who cares about other people, an employee who has a good work ethic, an employee who wants to work with people and is good with working people, et cetera, right? It signals a whole bunch of good things. So it's a similar type situation if you proactively contact a hiring manager, which means a manager or an executive at a company that you don't work for. And you say, look, I would love to work for your company. If ever you're looking for this, please let me know. I know you guys do this. That's really exciting for this reason. If ever you're looking, just let me know. Thank you very much. That's the most basic way of doing it. There's a lot of other ways you could do it. Okay, a lot of other types of messages that you can send. You can request informational interviews. That's the sort of number 2 way. It's a little more involved, but it's a lot more effective. And that's where you basically contact the same people, these executives, and you say, listen, I find what you guys do at your company very, very interesting. I would love to be able to get your expert opinion on this, changes in your industry and where you think this industry is going to go in the next few years. Let me know if I could, have half an hour of your time, date, time, place of your convenience, this kind of thing. And you sort of send that out, to multiple people. And like, as always, a lot of people won't respond, but some people will. And you've got several interviews with executives in companies in your industry, in your location, where you're going to ask them about them. And they're going to find it very flattering if you do it right. If you go there and you talk all about yourself, it's not going to work. But if you go there and just ask them about them and their company and, what their opinions are on things and where the industry is going, some of those people find it very, very flattering. And then if you were to follow up later on and say, like, look, I'd very much like to work with you. They've already met you. They've been impressed by you. They know you're a really good person who's demonstrated their passion and their knowledge and their initiative and all that kind of stuff. And so they're going to hire you based on that. On paper, you have qualifications, right? But they're really hiring you because they've met you. They've had a sample of what you're like. Okay. And in a situation when you're not directly talking about a job, you're not there because you're wanting a job. You're there because you're interested, right? That goes a long way. It's like volunteering. You're signaling all these things about you. And so that's how you break the deadlock in a lot of issues with going through standard channels of HR, like being overqualified, or not having any industry experience. Like all those sort of things that are roadblocks when you're going through recruiters and applying for jobs where they don't know you. That form of networking is what breaks through those barriers. Okay. Now, this is only one type of networking. I've just talked about LinkedIn. I mean, you can do networking in person. Like I said, you can go to trade events and all this kind of stuff and do it in person. You can go to job fairs. Like you can start with job fairs, especially if you're young and you're coming out of school. But if you're older, if you're a professional, you go to industry events, you start talking to people. The representatives of all the companies are there in your industry. And you talk to these people, they get to talk to you, they like you, you're an awesome person, you're asking intelligent questions, you're interested, you're passionate, and then you contact them later. You get their card, you contact them later, and just put out that feeler. Hello, I'm here. I'd love to work for you guys. If ever you're looking for someone that can do this, I can do it great. And that's how you break the deadlock. And for a lot of people, this is shocking and intimidating. It's actually a lot easier, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. You can do this. If you're an introvert, you do it on LinkedIn. You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to have a phone call with anybody. If you're more of an extrovert, you can do the trade show things and meet a lot of new people in person. Like however you want to do it, you can find your way of doing it. So that's the general sort of way of breaking a lot of these deadlocks. And coincidentally, as you get higher and higher in your career, more and more jobs are filled that way. Less and less jobs are filled through posting the job publicly and canvassing a bunch of strangers. Okay, so if this is all new and you don't know anything about how to do that, but you're maybe curious, learn about it, do your own research about it. I have some stuff. Okay, other people have some stuff. I mean, I've got my course, right? I keep plugging my course, but it's where I put my whole kind of technique all in one place, step by step from beginning to end. So hopefully that helps. Pasha says, "Hi Bill, I want to thank you for your advices. You have unique content. Keep doing what you're doing." Well, thank you very much. Just went through an interview half an hour ago and hope that the outcome will be successful. Well, best of luck, Pasha. I hope it goes successfully. And like I've said, whether you pass the interview or not, the biggest variable, the biggest factor is random probability. Okay? Seriously. It's almost like actors. If you're a professional actor, like in Hollywood or anywhere, they do auditions all the time, right? And whether you pass the audition or the director or whatever decides, no, we're not going to go with you, it has no reflection on your capabilities as an actor. It depends more on whatever they happen to be looking for. If they're, for one part, they're looking for somebody that's very confident and heroic. For another part, they're looking for somebody that's, very damaged and, like they've been through a lot of tough times, and they communicate that, just by the way they look and things. Like, it depends what they happen to be looking for. And you don't know what they're looking for. You go and you do the way you would do the role. And if that fits in with what they happen to be looking for, great. If it doesn't, it's not a reflection on you that, oh, you're a bad actor. It's just that in this particular case, they wanted someone that had this, and it's totally random, and you have no way of knowing what they're looking for, right? Same thing with this process. So the key is to be able to do a lot of interviews, okay? Because it's a very serendipitous process, which means that it's just based on luck, a lot of it. You know, it's going to be a coincidence that you just happen to have something that this person over here just happens to be looking for right at the same time. Okay, that's what this process is. So recognizing that, I think, helps people realize the reality of how this stuff works. How can I be accepted while applying to part-time job offers? Well, I don't think it's possible to have a more general question than that. Well, to give a general answer to a general question, in order to get an interview, you have to meet the technical requirements. A lot of times in a job posting, they'll put a bunch of technical requirements. They'll put more than they actually require. Okay, it'll be stricter than what they're really looking for. They will accept somebody with less than what they're saying they want. Okay, if that person is super likable and has all the other soft skills. Okay, so if you meet the technical requirements, they'll give you an interview. When you get to the interview, as I say, make sure you communicate to them that you have all the technical things they're looking for. A lot of times you have incompetent people at the other end that haven't done preparation, so they won't know who you are when you show up for your interview. They won't have reviewed your resume right before the interview. That's very common. So you have to sort of explain to them that you have everything in the interview. Then, beyond that, you need to communicate that you have a bunch of soft skills. Things like you're professional, you're polite, you don't have any issues with your attitude. You don't come there all mad. You don't come there all nervous, like really, really nervous, where you can barely talk. Things like this. You can't act all weird and in a way that they wouldn't want to work with somebody that acts like that. Okay? Try to be likable. The better you are at speaking, that helps. We get better at speaking by practicing. And if you are prepared to answer all the standard job interview questions and you've rehearsed quite a bit, that helps too. 8 years, stuck. Experience has been applying on LinkedIn but not getting any calls. Any advice? Well, I'm assuming that when someone says this and I don't know any context, I assume that they've been applying for jobs. They've been looking at posted jobs and they've been putting in an application for the posted position. And if they have been talking to somebody, that person is a recruiter. So that's the assumption I'm going on. If that's the case and it's not working, start pursuing other ways of getting a job other than applying for posted positions. I've listed one, which is networking. I've listed a couple of things in networking, which is using LinkedIn to talk to hiring managers, not recruiters. And I've also talked about, networking in person, with job fairs and that. There's a lot of other things you can do, okay? But if you haven't done that stuff, learn about that stuff and start doing it, because that's how you get past impasses like this, okay? I think I say this quote like every live stream I do, but it's true. 75% of people who get jobs through networking, not by just answering a job posting with an application. And don't take my word on that. Go and look it up and you'll see that's true. Is it a good greeting to say, "How are you, Mr. ABC?" Yeah, that's not the worst thing in the world. No, that's perfectly fine. It depends who you're meeting. Are you talking to, like, is this in a job interview, or this is just in a networking situation. I did a video not too long ago about if you're meeting a CEO or other types of executives sometimes, the greatest icebreakers to say, hey, so how's business? Right? They love being asked that. I met the CEO of the airport in the city that I worked with. I never met them before. I opened with that, and they talked for 45 minutes to me, answering that question. They had booked me a half an hour meeting with the CEO in their office, and I went to their office, and he talked for 45 minutes just answering that question. He was late for his next thing. And then he told his executive assistant to extend our meeting so that then he could ask me about me. That's an extreme case, but that's a good icebreaker. If it's anyone else, you say, hey, it's great to meet you. And then they might say something like, thank you for coming. You say, thank you for having me. At the beginning of the encounter, a good thing to say is it's nice to meet you, right? And then at the end of the encounter, you say it's very, very nice to have met you. I'm not sure if people are shaking hands anymore. There's still a pandemic. Some people are, some people aren't, but usually that's the sort of basic way to do it. Timo says, I start my career as a consultant soon. I survived 5 interview rounds with a hiring rate of 1% to 3%. I was a mediocre student, so it was surprising to be hired. Proves your videos are great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's not always... look, this is the stupidity of this situation. Being qualified for a job is not the same thing as being able to get hired for a job, right? That's why people use resources like my channel and a lot of other channels and a lot of other things on the internet, because as a lot of you guys know, just because you're qualified, you have a degree or you have experience in something, that doesn't mean that automatically they're just going to hire you, right? There's a little bit more to it. A lot of it is baloney that's been sort of artificially put in place by the HR organization, right? But regardless, you need to be able to sell yourself. The thing is, you're a stranger and you're talking to someone who doesn't know you. You could be a fraud. You could be an axe murderer. You could be, someone who's just everything that comes out of their mouth is a lie, right? They don't know. So, they're open to all possibilities. So you have to start from scratch and you have to sell yourself. And it's really not hard. You just say, this is what I have. This is what I've done. This is what I can do. Things like that. And then on top of that, you demonstrate a bunch of soft skills. You're friendly. You're easy to work with. You can communicate very well. You don't have a really bad temper. You act professionally. You present yourself professionally. You have manners. You treat others with respect. Like all that kind of stuff, right? Like you're signaling how much of that you have the moment you meet them, right? The moment you open your mouth, the moment you shake their hand or whatever, right? So it's those things that you have to have, right? And usually, like I said, if they've invited you for an interview, they've already got your resume or your application. So they've seen what you have on your resume, and your resume will get you the interview, but your interviewing skills will get you the job, right? So that's kind of how this process works. I'm losing where I was here. So just because you didn't have like straight A's or whatever at school, doesn't mean that you're unemployable. and other people who did get straight A's are guaranteed jobs. It doesn't necessarily work like that. There's no point in being a genius if nobody can work with you, if you can't communicate, or you're impossible to work with because you can't work with people. You get upset the moment that people do something that you don't want to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like all those soft skills, unintuitively, they really matter. They really matter more than your technical skills. Okay? If you have someone that has, mediocre technical skills, they can get by, but they're highly trainable. They've got a great attitude. They're open to learning. They're passionate about learning. You can get past the fact that they only have mediocre qualifications for most jobs. Okay? For most jobs. Not for all jobs, but for most jobs. All the soft skills are the things that really do matter. And that's very intuitive for a lot of people. A big thanks from Flanders. Awesome. My pleasure. Hey, Bill, any advice for applying for an internal promotion as a relatively new employee within an experienced team? It depends on who's making the decision, right? Remember, you're going to change your message depending on who it's for. So if it's the experienced team that is going to decide on whether you get a promotion or not, remember, people with more experience tend to look down at people with less experience, rightly or wrongly. And so if you're the junior sort of person and you're looking for a promotion, the best thing, in my opinion, just going in blind, would be to be humble about it, and not act like you know it all. Okay? Just say, I'd very much like to do this. I've learned a hell of a lot since I've been here. I really value the experience. I'd like to continue learning. And I do believe that, I'm at the point where I could do this. And I want to do this. And I hope you will look favorably on that. What can help is leading up to the point where you put in a promotion is if the person who decides, if that's your boss, a good thing to do, just like in a performance evaluation, is to go to them on a semi-regular basis and ask them, say, how am I doing? Is there anything that you would have me do differently? Because if there is, I'm open to learning and I'm open to changing, right? Asking for feedback, not pestering people, not doing it in a weird way, but just saying, is there anything that you'd prefer that I do differently? How's this going? How's that going? Is this to your liking? And that signals that you've got the right attitude, especially if they give you feedback and they say, I'd prefer you to do it this way if you could. And you say, sure, no problem, right? If you do that a couple of times, and then maybe the promotion comes up and you put in for the promotion, that can be very powerful. Rod Harris says, more certifications or degrees to avoid unnecessary debt. Don't really understand the context there, Rod, if you could elaborate. Moonlight. How does one apply for a job when they have 2 weeks of pre-planning vacation 2 months later? It's pretty simple. You just don't mention it. Okay? Don't worry too much about that stuff. If, the odds are, for any job, the odds are you have a greater than 50% chance of not being called, right? So don't worry about it. Just put in for it. And then on the off chance that they do respond and say, yeah, come in for an interview, then you can deal with that. Okay? And if they're asking you to come in for an interview, say it's I want to go, but that's right in the middle of my vacation time. Is there any way we could do this here or here? Or, and if they say no, it's okay, is there any way I could do it remotely? Because I'm just, I'll be out of the country or, whatever, but I still want this. Then you maybe do something like that. Thank you, Bill, for your previous answer. My pleasure. I'm glad you thought it was good or helpful. Jet Tortoise. Jet Tortoise says, "Hey Bill, I have applied for a vacancy which is a good fit to me already and kind of concerned that my CV was not good enough. Should I reapply and mention that it's reapplication with my up-to-date CV?" That's a tough one. Like, did they turn you down, or you just haven't heard anything? If you haven't heard anything, then there should be no problem in sending an update. Like if it went to a recruiter or something, you can email a newer version of your resume or your CV, if it is a CV, to the recruiter and just say, here's an updated version if you haven't looked at my old one yet. Something like that. Okay. If it's just a minor change, I wouldn't worry about it, because if you're sending in an update, that can signal negative things. Like it's basically saying to them that you applied with a resume that you know is inferior, and that can raise questions about maybe you're disorganized or maybe you don't know what you're doing. So it's tough to say without knowing. If it's only a minor change, I wouldn't worry about it. And then just start using your updated CV from this point forward. Hi, Bill. I am negotiating a head role. Unfortunately, the company, and this is a small tech startup, is not willing, as it might create malcontent amongst the members of the potential team to lead. Yeah, like that is a thing, right? There's not too much you can do about that, okay? Like, for example, if you have a senior team that's been there for a while and they're very valuable, okay, but maybe they don't have a fancy degree. You have a fancy degree, but you're the new person. They have to promote someone to be team leader. And if they promoted you, the boss, knowing about how everybody feels about things, they suspect it would cause some disharmony. It would cause the other employees to be disgruntled, and maybe they would leave, and they're very valuable. They don't want them to leave. So that's politics. That's power politics. And unfortunately, that's a fact of life. There's nothing you can do about that. That situation is upon you. The only thing you can, the only way you'd be able to do anything about it is if this situation is in the mind of the decision maker, but it's not real. They're just under a delusion, Min again. You're back, my friend. Good evening, sir. I'm very happy to meet you again. Yes, it's good to have you. Olena? Is that? Hi, Bill. Thank you for your great tips. It is very helpful. I got a 15-minute meeting today to talk about my communication skills and teamwork in remote settings, what to expect, and keep it simple. About communication settings or skills and teamwork in remote settings, what to expect and keep it simple. It's hard to answer not knowing what job you do, what context. When you mean remote, like what's the arrangement? Like it's very hard to respond to a question that's very general. Look, if I had to go into a sort of situation like that, I didn't know the details, I would say some blanket thing about like communication skills are very important. They're important to get two-way communication. I want to get updates. I want to understand what's going on. And I want to also be able to coordinate with other people. And they're also very important in as much as that you have to ensure that everyone is motivated and the morale is good, right? So it's very important to use communication skills for all of those things, and you strike a good balance between all of them. You know, and I mean, I can't really say much about teamwork because I don't know what you do. But yeah, it's important too for most situations. Morrow says, I proposed a probation period as lead to ease in with a potential promotion as head if satisfactory. Any advice of this is the right approach? What do you think about the resistance from the team? Okay, so they're not into that. Well, look, you can propose it and say, like, look, if it would help, I would be open to doing this, okay? But really, whether that's a good suggestion or a bad suggestion, it's entirely up to what they think of it. There's no absolute right and wrong with that. It depends what their expectations are. So the best thing, I mean, you say you've already done this, but the best thing is, to ask and say, I'm putting this out there. If it would help, I'm willing to do this, just so you're aware. Okay. But I mean, that's all you can do. Thank you, Bill, for your answer earlier. I love your content and please keep doing YouTube. Well, thank you. If I get responses like that, I certainly will. Thank you very much. Min, sir, I love management, operations, communications, career, and jobs. I like doing active jobs, but not sitting jobs. Is that good? I would like to know your suggestions on that, sir. In itself, yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. That will probably sound a lot better than saying the opposite. I prefer sitting jobs, like a white-collar job, than an active job. Right? Yeah. Like there are management initiatives where people, like things like lean and stuff, where people they can't sit in an office far away from the thing they're discussing and talk about it. Instead, lean says, go and see for yourself. Get out of your office, go down onto the factory floor or whatever, and see the thing that you're talking about. Okay? So that would tie in with management initiatives like that as a bonus. Mirayala says, hi, good evening. I have 10 plus years of experience in accounts payable. However, I've applied for many jobs, but there is no feedback from the HR team. How do I need to get back to them? Well, like I said at the beginning of the stream today, check out networking, because networking is the tiebreaker that breaks through all of those roadblocks, okay, or those impasses from HR. Okay, it's a way to fix any of those type of problems. Okay, I'm taking from what you're saying that you have the experience. Okay, you are qualified in what you're doing, and you have the work experience doing that role. So that's not a concern. It's just a matter of putting yourself forward and having them warm to you, considering you a valid option. Now the problem is, all things being equal, if you are a stranger to them, they don't know you, you are at a disadvantage compared to other candidates that they do know, okay? If there's an internal candidate going up for it, or if there's someone that they know personally, right, that person will always have the advantage, okay? Because as I said, if they don't know you and they meet you, you could be an axe murderer for all they know. They're taking a bigger risk on a stranger than they are on a known quantity, right? And the vast majority of companies out there, they're risk averse. They try and minimize their risk. Okay? So that sounds negative, but the good news is that you can easily fix that by being proactive, and don't talk to the recruiters, talk to the hiring managers, okay? The person that would be your boss if you get hired. Those are the people that you should talk to. Okay. So do some research into how to do that stuff. Okay. That's really the way to solve those kinds of problems. Rod Harris says, for advancement in your field, government employees with a Bachelor of Science in Business. Okay, Rod, you had said something earlier, right? More certifications or degrees to avoid unnecessary debt. For advancement in your field, government employee with a... Still don't hear a question, Rod. Let me know if you got a question. Jack P says, thank you for your answer, Bill. Much appreciated. Love your content. Thank you, Jack. FYI, your videos helped me so much to move from a job I had for 12 years that I was not enjoying into a new position with a different company that I love. Thank you. Well, great. That's congratulations. I'm glad that you're prospering. Olena says, thank you, Bill. It's spelled O-L-E-N-A. I'm sorry. I'm no matter what you do, I'm going to mispronounce your name. That's just what I do. This is the thing I do. There are people out there that are more tuned into that stuff. I'm not, but no disrespect intended. Okay. The job is a remote position as a quality assurance engineer in an IT company. Good stuff. YouTube expert, do you think it is okay to accept a salary that is half than you used to earn? I'm thinking about accepting that because I'm unemployed for many months and need to work. Well, listen, you just answered your own question. I mean, if you need to work and this is your one option, then okay or not, it's what you should do. So yeah, in order to sort of have more power, you have to have more choice, more options. So if this is your only option, yeah, unfortunately, that's it looks like it's what you need to do. I'm sorry to say. Thanks for your feedback. Sure, I will do the research and get back to you in the next video. Okay, great. Awesome. Hey, look at that. I'm up to date on the comments. Time for a break. Yeah, I try and give something I want to mention. I don't like giving out template answers. I know there are some other people out there that will tell you, say this, and then they give you this sort of, paragraph of things to say. And you just have to say it exactly, and that's what they tell you to do. I prefer giving concepts to explain what's going on, and then you can adapt it to you. We are all individuals. We have different experiences. We have different qualifications. We have different personalities, and we're applying for different jobs. So, I don't believe in the whole template answer thing, really. It's about guidelines. It's about the concept, the type of answer. And the other thing is that most hiring managers will be able to spot BS. They really will, just saying a bunch of BS. I'm a hard worker. I'm very reliable, this kind of thing. I'm a team player. That's BS. Everyone can say those things. You say them, they don't believe you. They need them demonstrated. Dana B says, hello, Dana. Dana, I remember you. Welcome back. Well, send in your questions because we have gotten to the end of the questions. There are 42 people here. So thank you for joining me today. And if I don't get any questions, I'm going to have to plug my course again. My courses. Oh, you're in luck. We got questions. Look at that. Zed, I like your name. Zed says, hi, Bill. Your interview questions, answers, videos helped me land a job I wanted for a long time. To my surprise, after 3 months, I'm now realizing it's not for me. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Is it the people? Most people find that, and I certainly will second this, that in your career, it's not so much what you do. It's not so much the duties of the role. It's the people that you have to work with and interact with. That's the tiebreaker. That's the thing that can make or break any job. I don't care how much you're paid. I don't care what your compensation is. If you have to deal with some of the worst people around every day for years, they could pay you a king's ransom and you would still quit that job. That's what we see. Compensation does not have any bearing on whether people quit or not. Obviously, if they pay you worse, maybe more people will quit. But, there's a point where like they pay you, a decent amount, and then it doesn't matter how much more you get beyond that, people still quit. And it's usually because of the way they're treated, right? Especially if you're a worker. It also applies to managers too. Managers of various levels. It's how you're treated. Ray says, what are your thoughts on a seasonal work for a professional? What are my thoughts? Yeah, it's perfectly legitimate, depending on what it is. What we're seeing over the last 10, 20 years is more of a shift to like away from the traditional type job where you have a fixed pay, you have benefits, and the expectation of a very long career with that employer. Okay, we're seeing a shift away from that to more. I don't know what all the fancy buzzwords are. I think it's called gig economy. Where you do sort of part-time work, you do contract work, right? That's becoming much more mainstream. And so, yeah, if you've never done that type of work before, you might be a little bit fearful of it. But I mean, depending on what it is, certainly the concept of contract work, temporary work, that kind of stuff, it is valid. Okay. It doesn't mean that, all gigs are good, but certainly, it's legitimate. Okay. As a concept. I mean, speaking for myself, that's all I've done for the last 10 years or something, several years, nearly 10 years, just consulting and things like this, teaching, like that kind of stuff, right? It's sort of all just gig economy, type stuff. And I think it's great. It's one of the best shifts I made in my career after being the CEO of a small company. That was like the end of the sort of conventional jobs. And then, this is great because you get a lot of power because your job isn't your entire income. You have different revenue streams from different sources. And it gives you're sort of diversifying where your income's coming from. So it gives you a bit more security. Okay, if one of those gigs dries up, you've still got others, right? If something starts not working out very well, you can sort of scale it back. It's fine. You've still got other things. So as a concept, it's perfectly legitimate, and it's part of a bigger trend that we're seeing. The world is going slowly towards that. And the events of 2020 with the pandemic and stuff only sort of amplified that. Where did I leave off here? Sorry for the pause. Just while I'm talking, my feed is advancing. It's advancing on me. It's the opposite of my hairline. It's receding. Right? What would be scarier would be an advancing hairline, right? That would be even scarier. So this thing has been moving, and I don't know where I left off. I'm going to go back a little bit here. Okay, I did that one. Well, yeah, here we go. Ray was asking, okay, the seasonal thoughts for a professional. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine, depending on what it is. If you're doing professional work, it's just that it's not a full-time permanent position. That's still really good. Okay. Now, it works both ways, because if they won't commit to employing you permanently or employing you full-time, whichever it is, or both, that leaves you open to do other things too. Okay. So it works both ways, you know? Zed, will be stuck here for a year at least before I can move around. Okay. Well, at least you have time to make a calculated move when the move comes. Ween, how to go through multiple rounds of interviews without making a mistake, and I can say the same thing twice. You can say the same thing twice. You can. Like, look, this is something that a lot of people are wondering, okay? In a job interview, they'll ask you several questions that all seem like they have the same answer, right? Like, the obvious example is like, what is your strength, you know? And then they say, why should we hire you? Well, you're probably going to hire me for my greatest strength, which is this. I mean, you're giving the same answer to both those questions, right? And then if you come back for a second interview, and then another person that's interviewing you this time with the original person, they ask you, so what is your greatest strength? You know, like, you're going to give the same answer, right? You might start to feel weird, but the thing is, if they ask you the same question over and over, really, they're going to get the same answer. If they keep asking you the same question and you keep giving different answers, that might seem a bit weird, right? You know, remember, you're there to communicate primarily that you have all the things that they're looking for, okay? A lot of those are going to be stated in the job posting. A lot of them are not going to be stated, okay? Of the things that are unstated, some of those are standard. They're looking for somebody that's got a good attitude, that's a great communicator, that's friendly, that's easy to get along with. Somebody that when our interview is over, they're a little bit sad because they liked dealing with you, right? That's a good sign. Someone who, you know, is not gonna be angered easily or frustrated easily. Someone who can deal with stress and pressures and all this and still be friendly and still, you know, be accommodating. You know, a lot of that stuff, that's pretty common, right? Someone who has a good work ethic, you know, and maybe they enjoy the job, you know, and they're not looking to leave as soon as something better comes along, right? So those are pretty standard. And then on top of that, they're going to have a few things that they're looking for that they're not going to tell you, right? We're looking for somebody who would be able to take the manager's job in maybe a year, because they're thinking of retiring. We're not going to say that, but that's also what we're looking for, right? Now, for that stuff, there's nothing you can do about that. You're not a mind reader, and you can't discover this. So there's nothing you can do about it. You know, it's just part of that random probability, you know? But if you're going through multiple rounds of interviews, especially if it's different people, okay, chances are you're going to be repeating yourself to some degree, and that's okay. Okay, you're going to be repeating yourself maybe within the same interview a few times, and you're going to be repeating yourself in multiple interviews. Okay, so a lot of people think that once you've given one answer, you can never say it again. That's not true. If it's very important, you want to say it more than once so they remember it. You say something once, like, what was the first thing I said in this live stream? You guys probably can't remember. I can't remember, right? But if I keep repeating it a couple of times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, chances are you will be able to remember it tomorrow, right? So it's the same concept when you're in a job interview. Okay, you can repeat yourself. Now, if you say the exact words, that would be a little bit weird. Okay, so you don't want to repeat the actual words like you're just memorizing an answer and saying it. But if you're speaking extemporaneously, which is what I'm doing now, you're not reading a script. Okay, you can repeat the same answers if it's appropriate. Somebody gave me a super chat. Farmer TX98. Does that mean Texas 98? When I see TX, that's what I think of. I am going to make a little adjustment here so I can read this. Hi, Bill. Thank you so much for your videos and these live streams. Your professional guidance was very helpful to me throughout the job search and interview process. I accepted a job offer last week. Congratulations. That's great. Thank Farmer. Way to go. You obviously kicked ass. So that's really good. And I'm happy for you. So yeah. And thank you for the super chat. You are the first super chat today. You're actually the first super chat I've received in like the last 4 or 5 live streams I've done. So that's even better. Thank you. Okay, where did I leave off here? I really need to get a bookmark for this feed. Okay, my buddy Jet Tortoise. Jet Tortoise. Can you fit jets to a tortoise is the question I'm thinking of right now. It's not a joke, but it should be. Should I deep dive into rival companies' network and open up for a job? Sure, why not? Many coworkers did this and got a job with much higher salary, but it's against my moral standards. I'm stuck with low salary yet. Okay, listen. Far be it for me to advise anyone to do anything that's against their principles. Okay, I'm not going to advise you to go against your moral code or your principles in any way. Okay, no one should. Your employer shouldn't. I shouldn't. Nobody should. Okay, it's entirely up to you what you do. Okay, I'm going to give you my opinion on it. Okay, you can disregard it if you wish. We all have our own opinions about everything, and we are all individuals, so that's fine. Now, my opinion is based on my experience, okay, which is different from yours and everyone else's experience. But I was in that exact situation like 20 years ago, and I got hired by one company. And it was great that they hired me. I was very grateful at the time. And after a year and a half or something there, I left to work for their competitor. Their competitor was located across town, and they paid nearly double the compensation of the first company to do the same job. And the working conditions were even slightly better. Now, I remember asking my manager about this and saying, like, look, can we get a raise because the compensation here is just not competitive. And I was told, no, it is competitive. We've done our homework. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. So like I said, okay, basically in a word, and, I'm just going to tender my resignation. And I left and I went and worked for the competitor. So the thing is, the company, and I mean, look, I've been on both sides of this. I've been an employee, I've been a manager, I've been an executive. How can I put this? Companies don't care about you. They don't care about anyone. They don't care about the CEO, okay? They don't care about managers. They don't care about workers. They don't care. Everyone is replaceable. So giving loyalty to a company, my opinion is that you shouldn't, because they don't have loyalty to you. Okay. Now, doesn't mean that you can't have a mutually beneficial working arrangement. Okay. But if it ceases to be in your best interest to work there, my opinion is that you should look out for yourself. And if there is a company out there that's willing to pay you more and saying like, look, I respect you more, I will give you better working conditions, I will give you better compensation, that counts for something. Okay. And I have seen a lot of people that were older than myself in the 60s and 70s have that kind of loyalty where they would work for organizations for their entire career. Like you'd stay at one place and you'd expect that organization to take care of you. And so they would start working in their 20s and they would stay at that company until they were like in their 50s, 60s, and then they want to retire and they're expecting that the company will honor their pension and their benefits and all that. And poof, it's all gone right the last minute and they're screwed. And I've seen that. A lot of people of my generation have seen that happening to the people that came before. And that's what formed our opinions. And I've had my opinions confirmed in my situation. So that's kind of my opinion on it. And yeah, I can tell you, being the CEO, being a manager, yes, you care about individual employees in the sense that you want the best for them. But if they want something that's just contrary to what's best for your department or your division or your organization, sorry, the loyalty doesn't go any deeper than that. So that's my opinion. I don't know whether that's helpful or not for you, but you form your own opinion, you form your own principles based on your own experience, and don't let anyone make you compromise any of those. God, I have the same problem. It's this thing has moved. I didn't know where I left off. Okay, listen, I'm just going to start from here. I apologize if I missed anyone's question. Just resubmit it. Okay, let's see. Okay. My second question is how to find out sponsorship jobs in abroad countries for accounts payable manager. How to find out sponsorship jobs in other countries for accounts payable manager. Well, search for it. Okay, I have done a video called How Successful People Get Jobs. Okay, and I show you how to use between Google Maps and LinkedIn. You can find all the companies in a particular location that are in your industry. And then you can use LinkedIn to see inside those companies to the individuals, to the hiring managers, to the decision makers. And then you contact them. Okay? That's something you can try, okay? But sponsorship jobs, that's like immigration, that's like that kind of stuff. I'm not an authority on immigration and how to do that kind of thing, sponsoring. So sorry about that. I know other people are, so maybe ask them for advice on how to do that specifically. Hi, Bill. I'm trying to get into the writing scene and I don't have a portfolio yet. I found a computer store, very big branch, but their social media and website has tons of mistakes and irregular. Okay. Yeah, like that would be a great thing to talk about if you were doing the networking thing that I proposed earlier, where you're contacting hiring managers, contacting executives. Because the thing is, what you got to remember also is that just because something is not perfect, it's riddled with mistakes. Sometimes it's sufficient. Okay? So just because it's not perfect or a website is not perfect doesn't automatically mean that they're going to need it fixed up or they want it fixed up or they see the value of having it fixed up. Okay? Maybe they do, but sometimes they don't. Okay? So you need to understand what's going through their head. And that's a great thing to ask them about, to have a conversation about. So informational interviews and things like that will be an idea. Zed, not so much the people. It's a combination of compensation and the work itself. Radio frequency engineering department, I found that I don't care for it at all. Okay, well then time for a change then, I suppose. Look, this is a regular occurrence, okay? A lot of people get jobs and things change. Maybe their boss leaves. The person that hired them, that believed in them, that thought they were great, that person left. Like maybe 6 months after you start, your boss leaves. And you get a different boss who didn't hire you. They inherited you and they don't like you and they don't see the value in you. That's a common situation. And this job that you were passionate about before, now it sucks. Excuse me. Maybe your job responsibilities changed because of a shift in the business. And you liked your old job, but you don't have any interest in doing the new job. That also is very common. And it's things like this that cause people to change their job. But yeah, I would agree. If the compensation is not good and you don't like the work, yeah, that would justify to me wanting to leave. The thing to do is to get something lined up before you leave. My recommendation would not be to leave and then look for a job. I would recommend that you look for a job as much as possible while you're still there. Okay? Even if it requires you to disengage a little bit. Nancy says, what is the best answer for what are your weaknesses for a manager position? I've done a video on that, Nancy. The best answer is to not give a weakness. It's as simple as that. Go watch my video on what is your weakness. Quick answer. The answer I recommend for most people is to say a good thing. You do this. But unfortunately, it has this negative side effect. Okay? I like to work quickly. Okay? One great thing about me is that I do my work quickly because I know that time is of the essence. However, every once in a while, that may mean it isn't the highest possible attainable quality. Okay? So there's your negative thing. And then you explain what you do to fix it. Okay? But I found that because I complete my work early, I found that if I don't submit it immediately, but I put it aside, I come back to it an hour later, and then just revise it before I submit it, I can usually catch the vast majority of those errors, and it never ends up being a problem. That's just an example, okay? So you say a good thing that you do. What is your weakness? Well, I do this good thing. But it can lead to this understandable side effect. Okay? That's the bad thing. You got to say something bad or else it sounds like you're avoiding the question. But then you immediately explain what you do that fixes that unavoidable side effect. Okay? So that's the short answer. Go watch my video on that. Okay? Don't believe, in my experience, don't believe any recruiter that tells you, oh, no, don't do that because, the reason I ask that question is to see if you know what your weaknesses are and that you're taking steps to work on them. BS. That's what they say. And I'm not saying that all recruiters might not think that way. There might be one or two that actually believe that and do that. Great. But the vast majority of them don't. They're not that sophisticated. They have to eliminate people. They take the path of least resistance. They've given you a bad thing that they do. Recruiter says, what is your weakness? You give them, oh, well, I do this thing not very well. There you go. There's the reason to eliminate you. And the other candidate, your competitor, who hasn't given an actual weakness, they're the one that doesn't get eliminated. Okay, so that's how I would answer that. It's a BS question anyway. It's like saying to somebody, tell me, why shouldn't I hire you? What would be the number one reason why I would not want to hire you? And they say, oh, well, I really have a problem submitting things on time. Nobody knows this, but, I do great work, but I can never submit anything on time. And I'd imagine if you ever had a problem with me, it would be because of that. And then the recruiter says, oh, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being so open and forthcoming with that question. And then they eliminate you and never talk to you again, that for your troubles. Okay. Now, some people don't believe me when I say this. All I can say to them is do a few more interviews, get some experience, because sooner or later you will encounter that. Best video interview tips? Nothing more than I've already said. Just show all the soft skills. The number one most important thing is being likable. If you can, get a better background than I have. Don't have light behind you if you're talking about those kinds of tips. My office just has the window behind me. I like it like that because it lights up my desk and my work area, and I like that. So an advancing hairline would probably be problematic. Yeah, it probably would be, but it would be interesting, right? That's where you could do probably some fun things with your facial hair. It's fun, well, for me, probably for no one else, but to look at how facial hair has evolved and morphed over the years, where people had the mutton chops and, the sort of mustache, right? The handlebar mustache. The only thing that I haven't seen is that hasn't occurred yet is if you're a guy and you shave your face, so you've got nice, clean cut, but you don't shave your neck. So you got a big puff of hair on your neck. We haven't seen that. I mean, hey, that might be coming. Or the always fan favorite sideways mohawk. Right? You shave the front, you shave the back, maybe it comes down, joins your sideburns in your beard, so you look like a flower. That might be something. That would be like the CEO look of 2050. Majed, if I'm saying that right. Respect all the way from Saudi Arabia. Thank you. I appreciate that. Farmer, yes, sir. Texas. So you are from Texas. Awesome. I've got family in Texas. So you're obviously a fine, upstanding person. Thank you, Bill. Your advice are very refreshing. Well, thank you, Jet Tortoise. I love your name. Your name is refreshing. Miriala says, thank you for your valuable time and advice. My pleasure. If it's helpful, that's even better. Frost Phoenix, if I'm saying that right, how to tackle this. Well, what did you say, Frost Phoenix? I'm trying to get into the writing scene. Oh, yeah. Just learn about how to network, okay? Because understanding people's needs is very important. If you can get them to explain what they place value on, what they're looking for, and then of all the things that they say, if you can say, well, I could solve that problem for you by doing this, but you don't know what to say, how to sell yourself if you don't know what they're looking for, right? So all I was suggesting was try and find out more about that. And the way you find out that stuff is by networking with people. Rain says, hello, thank you for your video. I take all recommendation and got the first step with HR. Now I'm going to move to the hiring manager. What should I focus on, my personality or my skills? Well, if you've sort of passed the recruiter and now you're about to deal with the hiring manager, I mean, skills and everything are important, but generally speaking, as I said before, the hiring manager will care more about whether they like you or not. Okay. So more of your personality, more of your soft skills, being likable is like the number one thing. Being able to get along with them really well. Could you guys work together well? That's the number one question. Okay. Because they're going to hire the person that they like the most. Of all the qualified people, the way this works is, if you go through standard channels, what usually happens is they post the job and then you get a bunch of people applying for it. Some people are qualified, some people aren't. Okay. So in theory, what they do is they pick a few people that look like they're technically qualified, just going from their resume or their application. Okay. So the only people that they invite for an interview are the ones that, assuming their resume isn't a lie or something, they're technically qualified for the role. Okay. The purpose of bringing them in for an interview is to see who they are. It's the soft skills. Okay. Are they trustworthy? Are they professional? Do they have an attitude problem? Can they communicate well? Things like this. Would we be able to work together? Stuff like that. Do they want to do the job? That's the kind of stuff they're looking for the people that get an interview. Okay. Right. So if you've come in, you've interviewed with a recruiter, they're probably verifying requirements. If they then get you to talk to the hiring manager, maybe on a second interview, then it becomes more about your personality. Okay. Are you the type of person that gets really stressed and loses their temper in the workplace when stuff is stressful? Right? It's things like that they're going to be trying to probe and verify. Okay? It's about your personality, it's about your behavior, and all that kind of stuff. Okay? So that's generally how this stuff works. Trap says, you keep skipping my questions, starting to think I'm invisible. I'm sorry, Trap. I apologize for that earlier for all the people I skipped. Can you just ask your question and I will answer it? I'm just going to quickly scan for Trap. I'm going back up. I can't see anything previously from you, Trap. So just post it again. Oh, there you go. Way up here. Do you recommend any sites for writing resumes? Is that what you're wondering? I thought I answered that. I gave like a 2-minute answer to that. Okay, so rewind and see it. I don't want to just repeat everything I said again. Zed, Bill, what you explained is exactly what happened to me. The manager who hired me ended up leaving. I'm now with some manager that has no connection, that I have no connection with. I don't think they like me either. Yeah, that's unfortunately a rather common scenario, Zed. And look, depending on the person and depending on how skilled you are at dealing with people, you may be able to smooth it over. Maybe you got off on the wrong foot. Maybe you're just two different types of people, two different backgrounds, two different approaches. Okay, that it could be that, right? And it may be possible to smooth things over, salvage the situation, and have a good relationship. Or it might just be unworkable. Okay, so you've got to consider both of those. If it's unworkable, then unfortunately, if they're not going to leave, you have to leave. But the good thing is that you have time. You have time to make a plan, to get other options and things like this. Bluth Dawn. There's a name. I like that name. Sir William of Bluthdawn, at your service. I'm going to a networking fact-finding event later today, so thank you. Okay, good. Work on your networking skills. Everybody can always improve their networking skills. I am an introvert. I'm a detail-oriented engineer type. So I'm not an extrovert. That stuff did not come naturally to me. And on top of all of that, I'm an only child. So I did not have those skills naturally, but I have learned throughout my career that they are really not that hard. Practice makes perfect. Little advice and little tips help, but practice makes perfect. And if you're pleasant, you got a nice smile on your face, and you don't talk all about yourself, you're open to just hearing about other people, you ask them questions about them. People love that. They open up to you. They like you. You could say literally nothing. They will like you. Because it's flattering when somebody asks you what you think and you feel that they actually care and they want to listen to you. It's a very flattering thing. It's like if someone comes up to you and says, "What's your favorite movie?" And you say this, "Why? What's great about that? I've never seen that. What's so great about it?" And then you get an excuse to talk about this thing that you think is really cool. That's an enjoyable experience for most people. I don't care if you're an extrovert. I don't care if you're an introvert. People like that, So you can use that to your advantage. And that works in professional situations as it does in any situation. Trap says, "No, that was old. You must not be seeing it. Sorry." Yeah, I can see the things you're saying now. So just post it again, like copy paste. Post it again if you can. White rice. Hey Bill, huge fan. I think you talked about this in a previous video, but I was wondering if you could talk about negotiating salary or raise. I sometimes worry that I could be asking too much. Listen, I've talked about that repeatedly. I have an hour-long video that gives you the whole shebang-a-bang from beginning to end. Bottom line, the very quick version is, let me put it this way. It's like, first of all, you can't negotiate unless you have a written job offer in your hand. That's the only time you can negotiate. Anytime they ask you about salary requirements or anything like that before, they're not asking so that they can try and satisfy you. They're asking so that they can eliminate you, okay? So the plan is that you don't want to engage on that question. You don't want to give them a number, and you try several tricks to avoid answering the question. And the other thing is, like, nobody can make you answer a question, right? I mean, you're not in a court of law. You're not like, this isn't a deposition. No one can say, "You must answer this question." It's like, no, you don't have to answer anything. This is entirely voluntary, And depending where you are in the world, even, sometimes they're not allowed to ask you that question. It's actually illegal for them to ask you that question. It's a watershed. Like, once you get a job offer, okay? Before the job offer, you say, "What was it? I need more details." Like a lot of times they will sit you down at the very beginning of the first interview. "Hi, welcome to our company. Thank you for coming in. This interview is for this job. Now, how much money do you need?" Right? And it's like, well, I don't know much about the job other than what's in the posting. I can't really give you an accurate number on that yet. So I would need to know more about this job before I could answer that. Right? That's the first thing. Second thing, they push you. They put the screws to you. "No, you have to give us a number." It's like, well, look, anything between this number and this number, somewhere in there would be fine, right? You say a really low number that's just within the bounds of realism, And it goes all the way up to a very high number that's just within the bounds of realism. So very low to very high. Say, look, somewhere in there, like anywhere between this and this would be fine. Okay, you're not committing to a number. They can't eliminate you because you haven't, You haven't committed to a number. You've started from a very low number. So they can't eliminate you for wanting too much money. But it also allows you room later on to ask for more money because you never said you would ask for a little bit. You said somewhere in this range from a low number all the way to this high number, right? So if you ask for a higher number later on, that's still within what you said, right? Stuff like that. You don't want to engage on that question, okay? You can throw the question around to them and say they say, how much money do you need? But we say, well, obviously you guys approved this position. This was signed off on by the senior manager. So they must have also approved the compensation range. So can I ask what it is? Sometimes they'll give it to you. Say, well, this job pays between this and this. And you say, okay, well, that's fine. Right? So you don't want to engage on that question. The only reason they're asking it is to try and eliminate you. And the moment you give a number, you're screwed. Okay? So you wait till you get a job offer. Then when you get a job offer, you can actually negotiate. Okay? Now you have a position resembling power to a degree in the sense that they've already decided on you. And if you turn it down, then they would have to go to a backup plan or, do more work, which they don't want to do. So that's what you have to bargain with. Okay? And then to negotiate, you would basically give them a bunch of things. Sure, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine. I'm used to more benefits than this. I was disappointed to find out it only has this much vacation. But you know what? I'll give you all of that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Just listen, but you need to change this number. You need to do something for me now. You got to change this number to this value. And then we got a deal. And I can start whenever you want. Okay. Right? And that's the gist of it. Rod Harris. I didn't hear the response to my question down towards the end of the chat. You are doing an awesome job. What's your question, Rod? If you ask it. Just copy paste, and I will answer it. But thank you. I have no problem answering your question. I ran into some problems a while ago. I didn't know where I was in the stream of questions, so I might have missed a few. But just repost it. Frost Phoenix. In my country, every job offer asks for current salary range either in the selection form or on the interview. Is it such a malpractice to do and then they base their negotiation from their solutions? Are you from India? I know that's a common thing in India. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in a country that does that. I've never had to deal with that. So I might not be the best person to say what you should do, but I don't think that's a big problem. The first obvious question I would have is, do they verify it? If so, how? Right? And what if you say, no, I'm not giving that? Is this a job? My next question then would be, is this getting a job through standard channels? When I hear something like that, I assume, that's HR. That's not a hiring manager. That's HR. And, it's a corporate technique to try and reduce everyone to a number. And you don't have to play by those rules. Now, if you're just coming out of school and you have no career experience, maybe your first career job, you have to submit to this kind of treatment. But after that, you don't have to take this kind of treatment. You don't have to play by their rules. Okay? And the answer, like I've said before, it's starting with networking. You don't get hired based on how much money they can pay you. They can get away with paying you as much money as possible. Instead, you get the job because they want you. They like you. They think you're awesome. And then salary becomes less of a consideration. And they certainly won't have these idiotic requirements. The hiring manager will tell the recruiter, just give them more money. Or can we just move this along? I've seen that several times. The thing is, people quoting somebody else's rules at me and saying, well, this is what the rules are. It's no, they're not. That's what that company says their rules are. Look, if I wanted to enter into a partnership with you and I said, look, okay, great, we're going to do this. Here, let's shake on it. Okay, we're in business, right? Now, here's how it's going to work. You're going to do this, then this, then this, then this, and there's no other way. I mean, just because I said that, does that mean you have no choice? You're trapped like a rat? Of course not. You're the other party to this exchange. Now, if they have something that absolutely nobody else has, and you absolutely must have it, then you have to play by their rules. But unless that's true, you don't have to accept it. The reality of a lot of things is that, first of all, there's other options. Secondly, even if you wanted to work at their company, there is more than one way to get a job at their company. Okay? You can go in through standard channels. That's one way. That's the way they'd like you to think is the only way. The reality is that most people don't get their jobs like that. Usually somebody has a friend who's looking for a job and is qualified. And they talk to their friend who's a manager in the organization and says, could you put in a good word for me? The manager says, sure. I know you're a good person. I know you're a hard worker. I know you're not an axe murderer, and I know you're not a criminal, and I know you're not dishonest. Sure. And next thing you know, surprise, surprise, that person is also now working at the company. Right? How often does that happen? That happens a lot. The other thing is that as you go higher, like I was saying earlier, as you go higher in an organization, if you're going to hire someone that's, say, a divisional vice president, okay, would you hire a stranger to do that? Of course not. This is a very important job, okay? It's like saying, I was talking about this on a previous post, it's like you hiring somebody to take care of your home while you're on vacation. Would you hire a stranger off the street? Most people will say no. Most people will say, I don't care if they have a good-looking resume. I don't know this person. I'm not going to trust them with all my stuff. I could come home, they could be gone, all my stuff has been sold, my identity has been stolen, and my bank account is empty. It's like, whoever I get, I need to trust them. So I'm not going to hire a stranger, right? So as you go higher, positions that have progressively more responsibility, we see them hiring strangers less and less and less. And it's not because of nepotism, it's because they need somebody that is tried and true. How do you find someone tried and true that's not working in your company? Through personal recommendations. Okay? That's how this stuff works the world over. I don't care what country you're in, that's how it works. I mean, look, I'm not trying to plug my course. I'm saying this because it comes up. This is in my course, but it is very easy to contact CEOs and executives. Okay, you get on LinkedIn, you do a search for a company, you do a people search. Individuals come up that work at that company. Bam, there's the CEO. Bam, there's the CFO. There's the VP of marketing, whatever, right? They're all there. You can connect with them. You can send them a message. Okay, there they are. Now, these people, as I said earlier, as part of their job, they have to take queries from the public. Okay, someone is going to contact them. Maybe a potential vendor, a potential supplier, a potential, customer, high-level customer. or client, the government, the press. People are going to contact the company. They're going to go to the CEO. This is part of the CEO's job. You have to sort of entertain these queries from the public. So somebody contacts you and says, I'd very much like to speak with you and ask your opinion on a couple of questions about where the industry is going. Could you spare me half an hour? They don't know precisely who you are, but if it's phrased professionally, you're asking something reasonable, something of that nature, a lot of times they will give you an interview, right? So you have access to these people. And I mean, remember, like most companies are small. Most companies are like under 50 people, right? So when I say CEO, I'm not talking about some untouchable celebrity. I'm talking about someone like me. You're essentially a business owner, right? Or you're managing a business for a business owner, right? You're that person that they put in charge of the house, right? Okay, these people. Like in my country, Canada, 85% of people that have jobs work in small companies. Small being defined as, I think, under 500 employees or under 100 employees. I think it's under 500. But only 15% of all people that have jobs work in the big companies. Amazon, Walmart, your national banks, this sort of thing, right? So the vast majority of executives are not hotshot celebrities. They're people like me, or just people like you, just jumped up a couple levels, right? It's really not that big of a deal. So when you contact them and say, I'd love to be able to get your expert opinion on your industry, would you be able to spare me 30 minutes? Maybe we could grab a coffee or a drink or something. Just name a date, time, place of your convenience. You go there, you ask them all about them, all about their company. Why are they doing the things that they're doing? What changes do they see coming down the pike? What plans do they have to meet those challenges? Things like this. And you're interested and you're asking about them. They will love you. And then you go away, you come back a couple of weeks later, send them a message, hey, I was thinking about what you said, that sounds really cool. If ever you're looking for somebody that, can do this, let me know, because I'd love to work for you guys. And if they just happen to have a job opening, they're looking for somebody that could work in this job. Right when you come along, bam. Not to always say the same things, but that's a standard thing. That's how a lot of executive jobs, you get executive jobs. Either you do that or you meet the person at an industry event, same type of encounter, but you just meet them under slightly different circumstances, right? Or you skip the whole conversation thing, you just put out the hire me message, right? It has less power, but it's still pretty effective. Because you know what? 100 people aren't asking to do this. You don't have 100 competitors. You might have one other person that's done this in the last month to them, right? Now, those are pretty good odds, okay? Because when you apply for a job that you saw on the internet, you're going in with like 200 other people, okay? So statistically, you only have a 0.5% chance of getting that job. Okay, when you do this thing, when you do this type of networking, you have not a lot of competition. Right? And like I've said previously, I've seen CEOs hand the director of HR somebody's resume and say, look into this person. Right? You can bet that the head of HR is going to take your resume seriously then. That's networking. I taught students how to do this in a postgraduate management program. This was the course. And like I've also said, I gave them bonus points if they took selfies, shaking the hand of the CEO. Good morning, Bill. What are some good questions I should ask at the end of the interview? I just did a video on that. You guys should look up my videos. What are some good questions I should ask at the end of the interview? I mean, there's so many. You could ask about the role. You know, what would be your expectations if I were in this position? What would be your expectations for me for after the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Could you describe the type of people that are generally successful in this role? Right? You know, those are good questions because then they start talking to you about the role. Other questions, you know, the challenges. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for this role in the next, say, 2 years? What's going to be the biggest challenge for this organization in the next 2 years? You know, something like that. What's the biggest challenge for this department in the next 2 years? Excuse me, getting a dry throat. All that stuff. Check out my video. So are companies hiring people they like as opposed to someone with a bulletproof resume? What is a bulletproof resume? I mean, you get people copying the job posting, all the requirements, and just listing them there. I have this. Answer is yes. Karen says, the majority of applications I have filled out lately require you to answer the salary question. Sometimes it will allow a range, but much of the time they want a specific number. Well, that's different. I mean, I gave an answer for a job interview. You're asking about a job application. Yes, it's a different thing. In a job application, a lot of times, yes, you can only put a number. You can't avoid the question. You can't put a range. So here's what you do. Because you don't really know much about the job, you know, they might have given you a paragraph of what that job is. You have no idea about the stuff that really matters. You don't know what your hours will be. You don't know if your boss is going to be a slave-driving jackass. You don't know what the working conditions are going to be like. You don't know if they're going to train you. You don't know if you're going to be bullied. You don't know if they're going to treat you with respect. Is there going to be mandatory overtime? Do they give you a vacation? What's the vacation? What's the benefits? Blah, 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 blah. There's a million things you don't know about the job that really matters, right? So here's what you do. Pretend for a second that all of those things are the way they would be in your dream job. Okay, they're all perfect. Then ask yourself, how much money would you accept to do that job? And it'll be some very, very low amount. You put that amount. Right? Because it's a black box. They haven't really told you. You don't really know anything real about the job yet. Right? And this is what companies do. It's a really cheap and borderline insulting tactic to get you to commit to a low number. And that's what they're going to offer you. Okay? It's basically a hurdle. It's used purely to eliminate you. So if that number is below a certain number that only they know, then they won't even look at your application. That's what that's for. Okay? It's really annoying. So the way you get past that is you put a very low number. Okay? And, you know, there's no question of integrity or anything there because they're trying to fool you. They're purposely not telling you anything about the job, and then they're saying, you need to tell me how much you would accept to do this job, but they won't tell you about the job, really. Okay, so that's how you pass that. Frost Phoenix, yes, India, but the thing is they get adamant on getting the number, else I've seen many people being written off, and this goes for many big corps here. Well, you have just painted yourself into a corner. I guess you have no choice but to do it then, right? Can I connect with you on LinkedIn? If yes, what is your ID? No, I don't. This is my way of connecting with you guys. Eagle of God. I got fired from my job in May. I've been job hunting for months now. Nothing. Any tips on what I should do, please? Well, if you're really stuck, I've got my course, which tells you everything. Second, if I understand that might not be your go-to solution. My other recommendation would be to go to my YouTube channel and watch. I have several videos in a playlist called Get Hired. And if you go to my channel page, they're prominent. Like that playlist is very prominent. Just watch those videos. That would be a great start. Okay. Now, if your issues run sort of deeper than like how to pass a job interview, I'd recommend my course. Or just watch a lot of the other videos that I've already put up there on various different topics that cover this. So, yeah. Anyway, it has been 2 hours, so I'm going to have to wrap this up in the next couple of minutes. Yeah, sorry I can't be more helpful, Eagle of God. I mean, you asked such a general question, it's hard for me to really give you. See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm a very detail-oriented person. I have a hard time when people ask, I always have, even as CEO, I've got a hard time when people ask extremely general, high-level questions, because to me, the only answer you can give, like in say 30 seconds, is so basic and obvious and unhelpful. You know, I find the value is in the specifics, right? But there's so many specifics to a question like that, you wouldn't know where to start. So that's what I'd say. I mean, I've got a lot of resources on my channel. Start with those. And, go through those. And if you have a question that I haven't answered directly in any of those videos, maybe come back here to the live stream and ask me that specific question, and we can get into it. So that might be the thing to do. Because I can guarantee you that if you're wondering that question, many other people are too. So, there are no stupid questions. And, everybody has to start somewhere. So depending where you are, right? The biggest thing I would say, just to kind of end this off here, the biggest thing I would say is that a lot of times the people giving advice for how to get a job are recruiters. And this is logical because recruiters deal with hiring. That is their profession, So they're giving you the recruiter's perspective. And I'm not knocking them. Some of them are giving out a lot of good information. But what gets missed, I feel, is the fact that when most people get hired, they don't go through recruiters. That's the thing. So you may get a sort of skewed, distorted view of how hiring works if you just listen to recruiters, okay? In reality, most people don't go through those, what I call standard channels. And the standard channel, to define it, is you see a job posting online, you respond to it with an application and usually your resume. You then, your application then gets processed by a recruiter. You get called in for a job interview with a recruiter and possibly a hiring manager, and then you get hired, right? That's what I would call standard channels. You have no personal connection with the company. You are a total stranger. They're a bunch of strangers to you, okay? And, that's what I would call standard channels. Now, for lower level jobs, that's usually the process for worker level jobs, okay? When you get to middle management, it starts to change. It starts to be a different process, okay? If you're looking for somebody to run a multi-million-dollar business operation that you have spent 20 years building, you're not going to get a stranger. It's just that simple. I don't care what's on their resume. I don't care what their background check is. It's too important to hire a stranger to do that, okay? Now, I'm just giving it to you guys the way it is, okay? A lot of younger people are surprised when they hear this, and they refuse to believe it. all I can say to you is if you don't believe this, when I tell you, just wait 10 years or 20 years, and then you will see that this is how it works. Okay? So, and as you go higher and higher, the jobs are less and less of those jobs are posted, and it's more based on other things. Okay? You have to be known within some small circles, usually within your industry. You need to be legitimate. People need to know you. They need to be able to validate you that you actually know your stuff. Things like this, right? So usually the person that you would put in charge of a multi-million-dollar operation is somebody who's been in charge of, a sub-million-dollar operation. You know what I mean? Like they've ran a department or something, right? And for that, you would have probably heard of them if they're within your industry. Okay, not always, but within some circles, they would be, you know of them. They'd have a presence. So that's how that stuff works. And one of the things that will help you in your career is becoming aware of this. Okay, and being able to sort of develop some of the skills that you would use to discover job opportunities that way and to put yourself forward for them. In that system, right? So there you go. I mean, I'm not a recruiter. I've been a hiring manager many times. I've worked in HR, among other things. I've been the head of HR, and I've done a lot of the HR functions and all that kind of stuff. And I've taught HR in universities to people that are trying to qualify to become recruiters. But I mean, there's more to hiring and careers than the HR organization. I know that seems counterintuitive to some young people, but it's true. Don't take my word for this. Go and research, do your own research on this stuff, and you will see. If you're really stuck, I have my Get Hired course, right? Like I've been talking about occasionally. There's a link in the description. Check it out if it would help you. If it's all my step-by-step process for getting a job through standard channels and also networking. There's a couple of techniques for networking in there from beginning to end, step by step. So if that's of use for you, check that out. And for people who just want to learn business, I have my other course, the $100 MBA. What this does is it walks you through an entire university MBA program, but with a twist. This is self-study, okay? So you get a book list. You get a couple of videos from me on each subject walking you through it, but it's mainly for you to read the textbooks. You're going to be reading the same textbooks that they use in fully accredited brick and mortar university MBA programs. Same material. So if that's of any interest to you, primarily it's for people that are wanting to either start their own business or they just want to learn business and tack that on. Okay. It's not accredited, but it's 1% of the cost of the programs that it's basically covering the same material. So that's the trade-off. And the reason why it's not accredited is because there's absolutely no tests, no assignments, no projects, nothing. So you can go as deep into it as you want, or you could just skim it. That's fine too. So if that's of any use to you, I have that too. The links for both of these things are in the description box for this stream. So hopefully that's helpful. No pressure. It's just if you're looking for something. But I have a lot of other free YouTube videos that talk about, YouTube videos are like a 5-minute topic. Some things you have to go longer than 5 minutes. It's more involved. Networking is one of those things. You can't just give like 5 quick tips and then you can get a CEO job. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot to build up and there's a lot of reasoning behind the way things are done. So it's more involved. It's not rocket science, but it's just more involved. So there you go. That's the end of my spiel. I'll just see with the last couple of questions and then we'll be signing off. Good luck to everyone. Yes, good luck to everyone. What should be the best answer to the question, why you get fired? Well, under perfect circumstances, they wouldn't know that you got fired. What they would ask you more commonly is, why did you leave your last job? And the last thing you want to do is communicate to them that you were fired. Okay, that's also HR theory. It says that if someone was fired, that suggests maybe there's something wrong with them. And that makes them higher risk. So if they ask you, why did you leave your last job? A great answer is just to say, I was ready to do more. And then if you have to keep talking, start talking about what you want to do, what you're good at, blah, 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 right? And you don't reveal the negative things about you. Zed says, thanks for the live stream, Bill. By the way, I liked your review of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. The gist of it being be nice and pleasant person. Yes. Yeah, some things never go out of style. And people warm to other people who are friendly and are pleasant and treat them with respect. It's a total fallacy that you have to be a jackass to be successful in business. That's a total fantasy. There are a lot of jackasses out there that are successful in business, but the thing is, they're successful despite that, not because of it. Who would you rather deal with? Some big prick or some super friendly person that you love to deal with that treats you with respect? Who would you do business with? Do your live streams get archived on the second channel? Yes, they do, Frost Phoenix. On my second channel, The Company's Expert 2, go there and subscribe right now. That's where this live stream is going to end up. Okay, and all my previous ones are there too. Along with some other stuff, some voiceover videos and stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to take this one last question and that'll be it. So this is from Manoj, who says, hey, Bill, would like to know why the recruiters ghost you after they reach out to you for a position and ask to provide a resume and fill out their rights to represent. No follow-ups afterward. Why they ghost you? Well, it's because they're unprofessional. And they're maybe not, I'm being kind here, but they're maybe not paid enough to do the extra work necessary to conduct themselves in a professional manner. Okay. Ghosting somebody, number one, is the path of least resistance. So you do less work. If you ghost someone, you don't have to get back to them. Number two, if you have to deliver bad news, okay, that is more work and that requires more skill than simply ghosting somebody. Okay, so those are the two reasons they do it. It's a shame, but that's what's going on. And they're trying to normalize it because they're doing it so much, it's becoming almost normalized. So basically, all you can do is you keep moving forward. You keep focusing on the next thing you're doing, the next job you're going to apply for, the next informational interview you're going to do, the next sort of round of hire me messages you're going to send out to hiring managers. You keep moving forward. Never stop and wait for this thing that you applied for to work out. Don't dwell on it. Don't stress yourself out over it. I know it's easier said than done, but focus instead on the next thing you're going to do. And if you get bites, great. Okay? If they're serious, they will contact you and they will do what they say. And if anything comes of it, they will give you a written job offer. Until that happens, keep moving forward. Okay, that's all you can do. HR tuning in here out of curiosity. Okay. Thanks, Bill. Have a good day, everyone. Yes, thank you for joining me today. You guys are all awesome. I see there's 46 people here. I wish you nothing but the best. Thanks for the intelligent questions. You guys are awesome. Listen, this stuff can be very stressful. You're going to be fine, okay? You're here for self-improvement, so already you've got the right idea. Keep learning. Learn as much as you can. Keep practicing. Do mock interviews, okay? Try different things. That's how you learn. Thank you so much. I will see you guys next week at the same time. And I wish you all the best. Take care.